just to preface things a little bit, we had 4 candidates. There was 5 to start with.
There were 6.
There were 6 to start with, and then 2 withdrew. So we are going to interview you. We're going to make a recommendation at a full board hearing on the 24th. Or full board meeting, sorry, on the 24th. Okay. So our committee, it was 3, now it's 2, but this is all going to be a hard copy, so all our board members are going to see what we talked about in the interviews. And then on the 24th, then we're going to make a recommendation as a committee on who we choose as our counsel. And it's going to be, in-house counsel, which is, excuse me, different than what we had before. We hired privately before. Now we're going to fall under the state and have a state employee as our counsel. So you'd be here in this office. And we're doing kind of standardized questions.
So everything we asked you, we've asked the other 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll just start. We kind of almost do them in the same order. How long have you been active in legal practice in Nevada?
It's going on 6 years.
Okay.
Okay. So 2009? 9?
No, 9, yeah.
No.
You do the math.
So 2000, so I passed the bar in 2010.
Okay.
And I think I was sworn in 11.
Yeah,
that works.
Close.
Yeah.
So my question is that in the dental boards across the United States, some states have a statute, obviously, but they don't have an administrative code that goes with the statute. We do in Nevada. So how does someone come up with an administrative code, and what is it, and is it a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, it just seems like it's an extra book.
Okay. I propose you're talking about NACs.
Yeah.
So the NACs are administrative codes drafted from codified NRSs. So the NRS is codified in law through legislation, through the executive branch, and then regulations themselves are drafted from the regulatory agency, derived from the NRSs, which are also codified through legislature and the executive branch. So the NACs are more of the regulations that control directed toward the control of your agency itself.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand completely, because I just don't know, and it's some of the more rural type states, maybe if you want to say that, they only have statute. And I was talking to Dennis, and it's like, well, what do you mean you don't have administrative code? How do you get it done?
Right. Well, sometimes, well, a lot of the time, the reason for the administrative code is the NRS is sometimes broad, or it's in relationship to a lot of things that you can't pinpoint certain areas that you'd like to derive in your regulations. So the regulations are, as you know, contrived from workshops and various functions that through the steps through the agency to get the regulations codified.
Right.
So it helps with the process if you want to pin down. I was reading some of your regulations. I see there's a lot of different regulations on the type of medications and sedation, and you're trying to pinpoint different aspects of that. So that's what the regulations are geared to.
Okay.
Byron, questions?
And again, some of this may be redundant, but we're asking each person the exact same questions. In Nevada, obviously we're governed by the NRS and the NACs pertaining to dentistry. And do you know what the code number is, or what NRS?
NRS and NAC 631.
All right, thank you. And in a disciplinary setting, a DSO or a disciplinary screening officer reviews all the material. If a situation comes up where he needs further evaluation regarding a root canal therapy, and he wants to seek a specialist's opinion, do you know what specialist he would be most likely to call?
I would say it would have to be somebody who's qualified in that area.
And you know who that
It
would
wouldn't
be?
be, oh, excuse me?
Do you know who that would be? The name of the type of specialist?
You mean an expert? An expert,
In root canal therapies.
do I know the name of that person?
Yes. Well, do you know what that specialty is
Oh.
called?
It's not periodontist?
Okay.
I don't know
All
the
right.
specific
All right.
technology.
And the last question I have is, part of the council's job would be to be legal counsel to board staff. And do you have any idea what that might entail?
What the general counsel of this position would do
Yes.
for the board? Are you speaking of board members or staff or everybody?
Are we considered staff? We're not considered staff.
No,
No.
it would be the board
Board
staff.
staff.
Okay.
Like the people that work and
In the
answer the
office.
phones and
Yes.
so, how would you maybe affect them? Or how would they affect you? There would be some interchange, because you'd be in this office.
Correct. So I believe the function would be of that in-house counsel would be, one, to make sure that the guidelines in relation to open meeting law, NRS Chapter 241, is always gone by, make sure all their procedures follow anything open meeting law, and then if they have any type of procedures or different things that they do, that everything's according to statute, according to law. I mean, the last thing you want to do is have anybody do anything that's not according to proper procedure or anything within their authority. So I would believe be the main function is to make sure that the department and everything operates in accordance with the law.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued.
No.
Yeah, okay.
And believe it or not, if you violate open meeting law, you don't think it's, I think it's kind of trivial, but it could be criminal. So, you want to make sure that everything is done according to the rules and regulations.
Another question I have is, the governor appoints us to this board, and we're charged with licensing dentists and hygienists. And then we're also charged with protecting the public for treatment that's below the standard of care. And so my question is, do you know anything about or have heard about the Las Vegas Dental Association?
Me personally?
Yeah, do you know anything about that? Because it's only here. Las Vegas Dental Association is only in Las Vegas, obviously.
To be honest with you, I have not, but I can assume that the association is dentists that have joined their association and come together to make sure the standards stay above.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's deceiving, but just for your info, that's not what it is.
so,
It's not a member,
They're not recognized.
they're
by the
not
American-
recognized by the American Dental Association, but it sounds official.
right.
And that's why I'm asking everybody, because we wanted to, know our candidates, if they're affiliated with it or not affiliated with it.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just assumed it was something like
Doesn't it sound like it?
Clark County Bar Association,
Yeah,
right?
and it's not.
It's not.
I don't know, I've
Yeah.
never.
Yeah, it's not. Let's see, do you have more?
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
this is kind of a philosophical, no right or wrong. We'll get a complaint in to the board, it'll be verified, it'll go through a process of investigation. And at a certain point in time, there's going to be a hearing usually, and the evidence is like 50-50. It's like, there's not a preponderance either way. And so if you had the ability to choose, which you wouldn't, the ability to choose, would you think that it's important to side with the professional, the licensee, or is it more important to side with the public and protect the public? Difficult question, no right or wrong.
Right.
Just how do you feel?
Okay, not how I feel, but how I see it legally, is that since a preponderance of the evidence is one of the lower standards, it's just more probable than not that that person committed that. And since it's 50-50 and you can't establish that 50.1, I would say that it would, unfortunately, not knowing any of the circumstances, not knowing if I could do anything else with the case, I would not recommend you to side with finding this person guilty of anything, because unless you can prove the burden and have the standard,
Right.
I mean, it might make it past your board, but if it goes any further, it's going to be severely weak and
Okay.
a tough hurdle to overcome down the road.
Yeah.
If somebody
Yeah,
wants to
that
challenge
makes
that.
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as you looking at the public, I mean, there could be other standards there, just given those facts.
Yeah.
And you want me to look at the standard and the burden, that's what I could say. I can't really comment as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
what you feel.
We're not attorneys, so we don't have the answer.
So just-
Unfortunately, we have to go by what the standard is.
Okay.
And it's, I was in law enforcement before I became an attorney, and you might know somebody did something. I mean, it's obvious, you can watch TV shows or whatever but the rule, the rule is you have to, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove this person.
Right,
I mean,
right,
everybody goes back to the OJ,
right,
right? We know he's guilty, right?
right, yeah. Yeah.
Well, supposedly he's guilty, but, the.
Lovelock has it now.
But we
You have to be able to go, that's what the law is for,
Right.
right? That's what the law is for. It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, it is to protect the
Well,
public, but,
and I think you have the point too, because if it passes this, it may get appealed and have to pass a higher standard.
I always
So,
look down the road.
Yeah, like what's gonna happen
Always
next.
look.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because, you have to kind of look at that. If
Yeah.
it's shaky in the beginning, it's probably going to be real shaky later
by
on.
the time it gets
Okay.
hammered.
So you want to maybe build a stronger case,
Yeah,
or do some more investigation, or
Right.
whatever you have to do.
and just for your information, we don't really have that many that go that far. A lot of times.
Or
you
are
know,
split like that.
They're remediated, and it's obvious, and the dentist, does something to make the patient whole again. That's kind of what we're after.
Right.
But at a certain point, once or twice a year, there's one that kind of goes to the bitter end, and then there's a hearing, and, it doesn't happen very often. So,
Hopefully you can, that's another job probably of counsel, especially what I do now. I evaluate the cases and see if it is something that you want to step forward with and proceed.
right.
Right.
Or maybe do some
If
more
there's
work at it and
value in
follow
it.
up. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it should be
Yeah.
kind of going in with your eyes wide open.
Definitely, yeah, because, we would, as the board, totally relying on you, not to, get us into a place where we don't want to be. And we want to know if we're going to have to be there, we want to know ahead of time what it's going to be
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So do you have questions about the board? Because Deb is our executive director, and she can probably answer them. Byron and I probably can't. But as far as administrative things and all that stuff that we do.
I was curious about, when Sophia and I were attorneys, so everybody takes a bar exam, and then they have a certain percentage of people that pass,
Right.
and they go according to, I was just curious how the dental board does. Do the applicants take an exam kit?
Correct, so, right, Nevada doesn't administer their own clinical anymore. We did up until about 2008. So there's two clinical examinations that have been approved for the board to accept. And one is the Western Regional Examining Board, and the other one is the ADEC. So they
they're
can't even
national.
apply
Okay.
until they have successfully completed those. But then we also have a licensure by credential for specialists. And so we can, without them taking a clinical, we can issue a license as long as they meet this criteria.
But everybody has to take the practical board exams, either the Western Regional Board or the ADEX
Okay.
exam.
So it's held nationally?
Yeah, it used to be state by state.
But now they're
So
regional.
is it just a pass-fail?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you find-
There's 3 sections on each exam, and they have to pass all 3 sections at some point in time. Each of those exam entities over a lifetime of a candidate's application, they have about a 97% pass rate. So there's 3% of the people that somehow they got out of school but have never been able to practice. Or they go sell real estate or something else like that. They decide that it's not for them. And so, since these agencies don't choose, they choose not to share information because they're competitors. If someone fails this exam, they could go and take this exam and pass it, and this entity would never know, so it would count as part of that 3%. But I'm an examiner for all 50 states, and really we're checking for a minimal competency. And so if you fail those exams or can't pass them, then there's an issue.
So they have as many tries as they want?
they can try up to, like the Western Regional Board, you can try up to 3 times. And let's just say there's 3 sections. There's called a CTP, which is kind of a written portion, and there's a practical portion on doing restorations, and perio and endo. So it's 4 sections, not 3. But let's just say they take that whole exam and they fail the endo section, the endodontic section, then the retake would be just the endodontic section. If they fail 3 out of the 4 sections, they have to retake all 4 of them. So they get 1 try, 2 tries, then 3 tries, and if they don't pass it on the 3rd attempt, then there has to be, I think, a year-long remediation period before they're allowed to attempt it again. By that time, they've usually been out of school almost 2 years and have not treated a patient, so it becomes more difficult. So the statistics show that the more times you've taken the exam, the less likely you are to pass it in full.
Same with the bar.
So, if you haven't treated a patient in 2 years, your clinical skills are probably not up to where you need to be to pass the exam.
Yeah. Okay, then my next question, or my last question is...
How busy are we?
I've had a root canal, and I've had a general dentist give a root canal. Do they have to be a specialist?
No, the endodontist would be the specialist that would be contacted in that situation. But a general dentist can do the root canal therapy, but they're held to the same standard as the specialist is.
Okay.
So if you do it, you have to do it as well as the specialist would have done it.
But in their training, they are trained in all
aspects
the
of
specialties.
dentistry.
Yeah. So you can do oral surgery, even though you're not an oral surgeon. You can do perio, because it's part of general dentistry. But then the specialists are the ones that
Work outside the box.
They bail us general dentists out. We have a place to refer to, so they have a couple years extra training.
So, and then they're limited also by their license, because like an endodontist does root canal therapy, where
But he can't make you a crown.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the way they do it is general dentists can do any branch of dentistry, but when you're a specialist, the way the statute reads is once you declare and are issued a specialty license,
That's all.
then you're limited to that area of specialty only.
And that's designated by like the American Association of Endodontics. It says an endodontist does this, and that's all you can do. So like you go to an orthodontist, he can't do a filling, and they can't clean your teeth, and they can't do other things.
They can just make it straight.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
But a general dentist can do orthodontics.
probably because he doesn't do that often. So the
Right.
skills
That-
don't
it's-
get-
that's
So your
the
skill
whole
set
thing.
decreases.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so we've had instances where we had a dentist who was a general dentist, went to a specialty program, graduated from that program, held a specialty license, and then didn't want to be limited to just that specialty. So when because you have to, unless it's licensure by credential, like I was saying, if you have a general license, if they want to reinstate that general license back that was originally they had, because once they get the specialty, the general license, if they have one, behind it would automatically expire. Then if they want to get that back, then the board could require them to do like a skills assessment or retake portions of the clinical exam to assure that, if you've been doing, orthodontics for 5 years and you haven't done any fillings, they may require you to take portions of a clinical or get a skills assessment to make sure that if we go back and issue you your general license, that you can still, because you haven't done those procedures in so long, so.
Interesting.
It's all public protection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we don't want to turn anybody loose that is going to be unsafe. And we try to not interfere with their life so much, but also we have to look out for the people that they're going to treat.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
being even out of law school for 7 years, I mean, it would be hard. Sometimes I remember words. I know what that is, but I just can't.
Yeah, then you
So if
have
you
to-
don't use it, you
have
lose
to-
it,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
you do. And you have to
And there's,
go
I'm sure, as in law, in dentistry and law, I mean, if you specialize in patents, or you geared yourself towards patents, you probably wouldn't want to take on a capital murder case.
Right,
And so,
Yeah.
same thing, because that's probably not in we
Best
call them
interest.
the public's best interest of who you're trying to serve.
Right, yeah, they call it ineffective assistance of counsel.
Okay.
Ineffective, yes.
Yeah, that'd be it. There's a lot of-
Yeah, we
some
don't
people
wanna-
that
we
are
don't want to hear that either.
Yeah.
All that stuff, we don't want to hear how inept we are. We hear enough.
Anything else for us?
No, I think that.
Appreciate
Just
your
want
time.
to thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
The board will make a decision.
Thank you very much for your time.
On the 24th. Okay, and so you'll be notified.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Nice to
Thank you
meet
very
you.
much.
Nice meeting you.
Take
Thank
care.
you for coming.